Before summarizing, there's one more thing I want to show you, and that's how to connect this to a GitHub repository. The reason you want to do this is because right now, if you deleted the code space, then the code would also go away because it's only stored in the code space right now. So this is very easy. Just go over here to the source control tab, publish to GitHub, and it's going to ask me for a name. I'll say MemPy Jan23, say YouTube. And I can do public or private. Ask which file should be included. I'll take the VS Code directory out. And I made this public because I'll put the link to this repo in the description for this video. And then I can open it on GitHub. And there it is. I should have edited the .gitignore file to remove PyCache, but that's not a big deal. But other than that, the other reason I wanted to show you this is because I'm going to stop this code space. And this will only take a second. Now I'll go to github.com/codespaces. And I'm going to delete the code space. Go back to my home page. Here's the repository I just created. Now if I go to the code button and go to the Codespaces tab, click this Create Code Space on Master button, it's going to create a new code space, and it's automatically going to bring that repository into it. I could even go further with this. It's actually possible to, it's a file called devcontainer.json, and this could be, configuring code spaces could be a topic for another video, in which you can actually do things like say what extensions I want to be installed. So I could actually tell it to spin up a new code space with the Python and MongoDB and Docker and other extensions that we used, have them already installed. So it's even easier for people to get up and running. But I just wanted to make you aware that this is how you could also use, this is another way you could use GitHub Codespaces with GitHub. So let's take a look at what we did in this video, or in this video series. Alright, let's get the pointer here. Okay, so first of all, we saw GitHub Codespaces. It's an online IDE, and it runs in the browser, and you've got a Linux compute instance, and you've got several different levels based on cores and memory, based on how much you want to spend or use of your free hours. We saw a number of Visual Studio Code extensions. So we saw the Python extension, we saw Azure, we saw Docker as well. It's not on this list, but it's in there, and MongoDB. We saw that free accounts, you get 120 core hours per month. Now, that's actually only 60 hours max, real hours, because the smallest Linux instance takes 2 cores, so 120 divided by 2 is 60. But still, that's more than enough to experiment with. Then the other part that we looked at was Microsoft Azure, and we looked at several different services. We looked at the Azure App Service for hosting our application. We looked at Cosmos DB for a database. Remember that Cosmos DB supports a number of different APIs, including the MongoDB API. So while we were developing against a MongoDB server in a container on the code space, we were able to change to MongoDB on the server, or rather Cosmos DB on Azure using the MongoDB API, just by changing a connection string. And all the rest of the code using PyMongo was the same. And we also saw how to use the Azure Cognitive Services, specifically the language service, for doing sentiment analysis on the comments. And we saw how to use the SDK for that. And again, we saw that there's an always free tier. We didn't pay anything for this. So that's all that I have. Let me know in the comments what you think of this series and topics that you'd like to see in the future, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks for watching.